August 6, 1945. A clear, cloudless morning in Hiroshima. Birds flutter, children giggle on their way to school. Workers check their watches, and overhead silence. Then a blinding white flash. A city gone in an instant. Fire, wind, silence again, but of a different kind. In the center of that inferno stood a man, burned, deafened, bloodied, but alive. His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi. What no one could have predicted, not even him, was that he would escape Hiroshima, only to walk into another nightmare. Just 3 days later, he would find himself beneath the second atomic bomb ever dropped on humanity in Nagasaki. This is the true story of a man who lived through the unthinkable twice. A man who watched history explode around him and somehow kept walking forward. A survivor not just of bombs, but of silence, trauma, and the unbearable weight of memory. Tsutomu Yamaguchi was a 29-year-old naval engineer working for Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. A calm, thoughtful man, he had been in Hiroshima for 3 months, helping design oil tankers. But on August 6, 1945, he was finally going home to see his wife and infant son in Nagasaki. That morning, he woke early, packed his bags, and walked to the train station with two colleagues. He realized that he had forgotten his personal stamp, the official Henko used to sign documents, and rushed back to retrieve it. It was this small delay, this moment of forgetfulness, that kept him from boarding an earlier train and sealed his fate in Hiroshima. The sun was already rising hot over the city. Hiroshima was bustling through, strangely alert. There had been whispers of something big. People sensed that something was coming, but no one imagined this. At 8:15 a.m., as Yamaguchi stood less than 2 miles from the city center, he looked up and saw a silver plane, a B-29 bomber, slicing through the sky. It dropped something small, a moment of curiosity. Then light. Not yellow, not orange, but pure white, like staring into the sun multiplied by 1,000. He felt himself lifted from the ground, then heat, then darkness. He woke up minutes later, thrown into a nearby field, his arms and face burned. His eardrums ruptured, his entire world ground in chaos. Hiroshima was gone. There is no etiquette way to describe what Hiroshima looked like in the hours after the bomb. It wasn't just destruction, it was erasure. Buildings turned to shadows, bodies reduced to outlines on walls, streets swallowed by firestorms. Yamaguchi stumbled through the wreckage, his skin peeling from his arms. He found his colleagues, both somehow alive, though injured, and they made their way through the smoldering remains of the city. No direction, no leadership, just ash and cries. He stumbled into a nearby bomb shelter where strangers shared water, clothing, silence. The city around them burned for hours. At one point, Yamaguchi looked up at the sky and saw something he would never seen before. A black, boiling column rising miles into the air. The mushroom cloud, Hiroshima's tombstone. Despite his arms and dizziness, Yamaguchi knew he had to get home. Nagasaki was 180 miles away, and he had no idea whether it would even still be standing. On August 7, he and his colleagues walked for hours until they reached a functioning railway. Bleeding and feverish, he boarded a train, one of the few still operating, and began the journey to Nagasaki, unaware that he was walking into horror for the second time. By the time he arrived in Nagasaki on August 8, Yamaguchi was nearly unconscious from pain and exhaustion. His wife, Hisako, gasped when she saw him, his face wrapped in cloth, his eyes swollen, nearly shut, his voice barely a whisper. She bathed his wounds, fed him rice, porridge, and listened as he tried to describe what had happened in Hiroshima. But there were no words that could do it justice. The next morning, on August 9, he insisted on going to work. Mitsubishi expected him to report what had happened in Hiroshima. He walked slowly, leaning on walls, going with nausea. At 11 a.m., he entered his supervisor's office and began to explain. He had just reached the part where he described blinding lights when it happened again. Another flash, another roar, another fireball. This time it was Nagasaki. The office windows shattered, the floor lurched. Yamaguchi dove to the ground. For a moment, he thought he was hallucinating, that the fever was making him see the past. But it was real. Two cities, two bombs, one man. The bomb that hit Nagasaki, Fat Man, was even more powerful than Hiroshima's little boy. But the terrain of the city, nestled in valleys and hills, slightly contained the devastation. Still, 70,000 people would die. Yamaguchi had been shielded slightly by the building's thick concrete walls. His injuries worsened, but he survived again. His home was flattered, but his wife and son, by some miracle, had taken shelter in a tunnel earlier that morning. Hisako later said it was Sumato's story of Hiroshima that convinced her to not stay in the house. His survival had saved her life. But the air was poison, radiation, sickness began to set in. Yamaguchi's hair fell out in clumps, his wounds oozed, he vomited for days. The world blurred into pain. Around him, Nagasaki reeled from the same nightmare he had just lived through in Hiroshima. Mothers crying for their children, black rain falling from the sky, the unbearable smell of burning flesh. It wasn't just his body that was broken. It was his mind, his soul. He had survived two atomic bombs, but he didn't feel lucky. He felt cursed. Japan surrendered on August 15. The emperor's voice came over the radio, trembling and unfamiliar. For many, it was the first time hearing him speak. Yamaguchi, still unable to walk properly, listened from a mat on the floor. His wife held his hand. They had survived the war, but what had they truly survived? Over the next few years, Yamaguchi health ebbed and flowed. His burns eventually healed into scars, but the trauma never faded. He developed a lifelong sensitivity to sunlight. His hearing never returned fully. He watched many of his fellow survivors, including his co workers, die from radiation related illnesses in the years that followed. And yet, he worked, he lived, he raised his son. In time, he had more children. Life against all odds continued. Still, he never spoke publicly about his experience. The government discouraged atomic bomb survivors, known as Hibakusha, from sharing their stories. Many were discriminated against in jobs, marriage, and even healthcare. For decades, Yamaguchi carried his story quietly. It wasn't until the 2000s, near the end of his life, that Tsutomu Yamaguchi finally stepped into the public eye. In 2006, he published a memoir and began giving interviews. His voice was slow, aged, but steady. He wanted to ensure people understood what had happened and what it meant. In 2009, the Japanese government officially recognized him as a Niju Hibakusha, a person who had survived both atomic bombs. He was the first and only person to receive that designation. That same year, he traveled to the United Nations in New York to speak about nuclear disarmament. His voice, though weathered by age, carried a simple but profound message. The only people who should be allowed to govern nations with nuclear weapons are those who have survived them. He was not angry. He did not speak of revenge. He spoke only of peace of memory and of the future. He passed away on January 4, 2010 from stomach cancer, likely linked to the radiation he absorbed over those two imaginable days in August 1945. He was 93. Tsutomu Yamaguchi's story is not just about survival, it is about the unthinkable power of war and the quiet resilience of one man who walked through hell twice and lived to tell the world what it looked like. He could have turned bitter, he could have hidden his pain forever, but in the end, he chose to speak. He didn't want fame, he wanted remembrance, so that what happened to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what happened to him, would never happen again. His name is written into history not for what he built or broke or won, but what he endured and what he chose to do with that endurance. When the world cracked open, Tsutomu Yamaguchi stood in the fire and walked forward. And for that, we remember him.